What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update at the request of several subscribers. I haven't done a Star Wars Power of the Force DOS update in a long time. Power of the Force 2, those muscular He-Man looking figures from 1995 to about 2000, they captured our imaginations. Everyone thought they were going to be rich collecting these things, and most of them are not worth anything. There are some exceptions, and you saw some pre-production items that I picked up fairly recently, and I showed that in a video. I showed a Hasbro standard card, Neon Numb, and there's another one of those in this market update I'm going to show you, and a couple of unpainted test shot prototypes that I also picked up. Those have all been sent off to Collector Archive Services, so we'll see you in like 9 months or more, depending on their backlog. But I have received a request, or multiple requests, I should say, to take a look at recent sales. And I think it makes sense to do one of these probably once a quarter at most, just because there's not a lot of very interesting sales in my opinion. But I do think it's fun to track what some of the quote-unquote holy grails of the Power of the Force 2 line are doing. Maybe autographed items. There's even a few customs I have in here because I thought they were cool enough to show you. So this is one of the most obvious grails within the Power of the Force 2 line, and that's the US card freeze frame Weequay. It sounds completely ridiculous that a boring figure like Weequay would be one of the holy grails for the Power of the Force 2 line, but those of you that collect it, you know it, and you know that it's a tough one to find. I have this one myself. I fell in love with it after seeing it on the Blacked Out Ewoks' channel like a week after I got sober and got cleaned up, and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So I started buying crap, and this is one of the ones I bought. I bought an AFA 85 plus version of this one. This one was ungraded, and it sold for $370 plus $8 shipping. As a reference point, I think I paid. This is over 5 years ago now, almost 6 years ago. I bought my AFA 85 plus for about, I'm going on memory again, it was around 280 to 300, somewhere in that ballpark. So you can see that, even an ungraded example now goes for about 370, 380, and it looked pretty mint though. It looked really like a really nice condition, and the demand is definitely there for this figure. It's one of the tougher ones to find. Now, as a fallback option, if you can't find the US card, you can look for the Canadian card. And this is the Canadian card here. It's got, as you can see, it's got the French and English language, and I guess maybe Spanish, I don't know. But this one was graded by Collector Archive Services. And, it's called the Tri logo, but I consider this really the Canadian. But I assume that this is the Canadian card back. It looks Canadian to me. Yeah, this is Hasbro Canada. You can see in the bottom on the back of the card back, 1997 Hasbro Canada on the bottom of that. So this is the Canadian. I wouldn't call it a Tri logo personally, but whatever. I mean, it's trilingual. This one was listed for $249.95 free shipping, and I did look up the best offer that was accepted. It sold for $200, and it was an 80 plus with Collector Archive Services. So as you can see, even the Canadian version of the freeze frame action slide Weequay is pretty popular and in high demand. You can tell because it's got the multiple language, and it also has that slip of paper in the back. I just got this freeze frame action slide Canadian card for the Boba Fett, which I just showed in a recent video. Okay, another line that I really like is the Italian gig line. I think I only have one, and that is the signed Boba Fett that I also showed you recently. But this was a UKG graded gig Italian card for the Stormtrooper. The gig 8-back UKG 85%. Really beautiful item. That one sold for $128 US or $95, or excuse me, 95 pounds plus shipping. But I love those gig Italian cards with the Guerra Stellare on the front of the card back. Mi dispiace, eh? Mi meatballs and the lasagna. Mi Guerra Stellare. I can just picture some angry Italian restaurateur yelling at me as I walk up in my neon pink USA flag t-shirt and fanny pack. But I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, this is the sales price for the Stormtrooper. This is another one that is very popular among collectors, and that is the Short Saber Long Tray US card Luke Farmboy. And the European version of this is also pretty popular, the short saber long tray. And what am I referring to for those of you who are fairly new to the roided up Star Wars figures? I'm referring to the lightsaber that was inserted into a long saber tray. The originals came with a long saber. They eventually transitioned over to a short saber. And for a short time period, those short sabers were put into the wrong kind of tray. And you'd have the long tray with a shorter saber. You can see the indentation for what used to be the longer saber. I guess, you know, Kenner / Hasbro were just getting rid of inventory of the supplies to make these. So they're fairly rare, fairly high demand. This one was an AFA 80 plus. That one was listed for $350. It sold for $332 plus $8 shipping. So pretty close to list price there. I've got an AFA 85, I believe, of the European card back for this. So I don't have the US card, and that one's a lot more expensive and more desirable than the European version. Here was one sold by Matthew the Turtle on eBay. This is the same seller, Matthew I, that I bought my pre-production test shot figures from that I showed in a recent video. He does sell on eBay, so look for his name there. Very trusted seller. I bought a bunch from Matthew over the years. He's just a great guy. He has a most incredible collection. This was an AFA 90 Ishii Tib archival case. Very, very high grade. That one sold for $99 plus $8 shipping. And, you know, another one, I wouldn't call Ishii Tib a particularly high demand figure, but that was a very nice high grade, and it was a freeze frame action slide, which even for the freeze frame action slides that are not particularly expensive or valuable, they just look so good. I just love those freeze frames. You know, you got a slide from the movie inserted along with the figure, and it just, you know, and then the back of the card back has a way to look at the freeze frame, you know, the slide in there. So it's just a really cool card back design. I would love for Hasbro to reintroduce these in the Black Series. They've already got the Black Series kind of Power of the Force 2 style card backs out there. I would love it if they brought back the freeze frame action slides for the 6-inch figures. That would look amazing. I doubt they'll ever do it, but it would just look incredible, I think. But one of the other freeze frames that is considered one of the, you know, more expensive and highly desirable figures is the Sand Trooper on the freeze frame action slide. This is another one that I do have. This one was listed for $265. It sold for $180 was the final sales price. Again, that was Matthew the Turtle. Really nice example there. He says mistake rare. It was just an unpainted kind of accessory. I didn't think it was that much of a rare thing, but just in general, the Sand Trooper on the freeze frame card is one of the more desirable ones. Another one would be the AT-AT driver, which I believe was a fan club exclusive, and then the AT-ST driver is another good one. That's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others, but anyway, this was another one. That one sold for $95, so pretty wide price disparity between $180 and $95. This one I think is a little bit closer to reality for an ungraded example. I paid about $160, I think, for my very high grade. It's 85 plus or a 90, I can't remember, of the Sand Trooper on the freeze frame action slide, but it was already graded and very high grade. So, but for an ungraded example, I think 95 to 110 bucks will probably get it for you. The Power of the Force 2 line is also a great line for collecting autographs. And with the exception of ones like this, which are numbered Toy Expo exclusives, you can see this one was numbered 98 with that sticker on the front of the blister. But a lot of people take the Power of the Force 2, just the regular retail releases, to conventions to have Star Wars actors sign those because they're kind of inexpensive mint on card figures, and they present well. But there's a lot of convention exclusives which are expensive. And this Boba Fett is one of the more notorious ones. I believe this was the Philadelphia Toy Expo. I can't read the number there, but I have one of these Toy Expo exclusives, and they usually include like a very custom sticker with the actor's actual face instead of what we saw on the retail releases. And so I've got ones like this. I've got a Bib Fortuna. You know, but the Power of the Force 2 line is great for collecting autographs. And now that Collector Archive Services will authenticate the autograph with James Spence authentication and then grade the item on top of that, you got to pay $35 for the autograph authentication, and then you also have to pay the typical $50 or $60 to actually grade the mint on card figure. So it's a lot more expensive to do, but when you get them back, they look awesome. I mean, I got the Gig Italian card back with Jeremy Bullock's autograph. I've got this Philly Toy Expo, but there's like Japanese Toy Expos. There's so many different options out there. But anyway, this one was ungraded. It sold for $240 plus $9 shipping. But you can be on the lookout for those. There's just a ton of them. Boba Fett obviously is one of the more heavily collected Power of the Force 2 figures because there's a lot of different card back variations, and there's also a lot of different errors, which I've covered in past videos. You got the circles or no circles or half circles on the hand. You got the missing chest emblem. You also got the missing Bantha skull emblem on the shoulder pad. I mean, there's just all kinds of different variations. This is the typical UK market, European market THX insert. This is what I would consider the tri logo, not the Canadian freeze frame action slide that we saw for Weequay. This is what I call a tri logo, and that's got the 3 languages there on the front and the multiple languages there below. And anyway, this was graded AFA 85. That sold for $176 plus another $40 shipping in the US. So, you know, just another data point for those of you who collect the Power of the Force 2 Boba Fett's. Here's another one that I thought was a little higher than I expected. This one was just a standard US card with the full circles, which is the most common. Now, if this was a half circles variant, that would be a lot more desirable and be more kind of in keeping with this price. It was listed for 175 Great British pounds, and I could not look up the sales price for this one because the 130point.com website only tracks US sales and allows you to find the best offer that was accepted. But, you know, let's assume it's probably 125 to 150 pounds. That's still a pretty big number for just a standard US Kenner card without any error or variation to the hands on the figure. I also want to show you a couple of customs. This was a really cool custom. This one has like a Boba Fett Power of the Force 2 style, but it's got the Mandalorian logo and it's got the re-armored Boba Fett inside. It looks awesome. It really turned out great. Here's the back of the card that they use. Very awesome style. This is like made for Hasbro to do this in the Power of the Force 2 Black Series line using the re-armored Boba Fett. I think that would look fantastic. And people clearly are willing to pay it because this is just a custom and someone paid $125 US for that. And don't get me wrong, it's a great custom. I'm not trying to disparage it. I'm just saying that someone still paid $125 for that. Hasbro could easily pump these out in the Black Series line using the existing kind of stuff they got and just kind of reprint the card backs for the Mandalorian and use the new Boba Fett, re-armored Boba Fett in the 6-inch line, and it would sell like hotcakes. It would sell like hotcakes as a store exclusive. And I would be shocked if they don't do something like that. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. The Power of the Force 2 Slave 1, this was a sealed one. There's also a Shadows of the Empire version, if memory serves. I'm going on memory, so don't quote me on that. But this is the Boba Fett Slave 1. It reuses the vintage Kenner mold from the 1980s. It's basically the same mold, just repainted. That one sold for $222. Best offer accepted, which the best offer was $195 plus $25 shipping. So let's call it about $220, $225 for a mint and sealed box. And the box looked to be in great shape. You know, probably like an 85 box. So that's a pretty big number for a Power of the Force 2 Slave 1, but it is sealed and it's pretty immaculate. This is the one that I thought was hilarious. This one was a vintage, quote-unquote, vintage Power of the Force 2 Slave 1 Boba Fett ship that was custom painted like a Hot Wheels hot rod. And look at all the detail that went into this. It looked really awesome. They even did the Han in Carbonite. How hilarious is that? It's like a, you know, very reminiscent of a Hot Wheels hot rod, and no expense was spared. Lots of glitter on the stickers. It was a very cool custom, and it sold for $101 on 21 bids plus $14 shipping. So I don't know, I just thought it was cool enough to show you guys because I've never seen so much attention to detail in a custom, and people were clearly willing to pay it. You know, they paid $101 plus shipping for it, but that was a really cool piece. Even the cockpit was like a matte red. But I don't talk about customs that much, but this one I thought was really, really cool. And again, going back to my point about autographed figures, here's another one. This is a Dave Prowse. I've got several Dave Prowse autographed items, but usually they would show up at a convention or, you know, show up at a signing, and then they would have numbered examples. In this case, it was 667 to 5,000. Dave Prowse was pretty active on the autograph front, so it's not particularly hard to find his stuff. This one did have a yellowed blister. But after he passed away, the prices jumped pretty dramatically. I mean, I remember buying one right before he died, and it graded like a 90 with CAS, so it was very mint. And I paid like $80 for it. and then he died, and now they're going for double or triple that number. So this one sold for 170, and it had a yellow blister. So it's really gone up since he passed away, unfortunately. There are a number of collectors out there, like Matthew, that seller that I mentioned, who collect prototypes. And there are a number of different prototype items out there, like the unpainted test shots that I've shown you on my channel, the first shot prototypes that I've shown you that are dated or undated, date stamps, no date stamps, things like that. There are also like baggies like this, engineering pallets that came in sealed baggies like this that have slightly different paint apps, pretty close to the final. I would call this an FEP, or final engineering pilot, or final prototype type thing. And so these are also popular. This one sold for $169. I believe that Chris W from Rogue 5 Toys, he's got a baggie like this for the Ugnaught that he's got at Collector Archive right now, if memory serves me. So we'll have to look for that one when it gets back. And then these are the other kind of prototypes that you can pick up. These are like factory samples when they work on the quality assurance. I just picked one of these up for Neon. This was for Greedo. And this one lists the factory there. I guess the Smile Factory, I don't know. But 11/12/96 was a manufacturing date. But these are really cool. These are another option for those of you who want to collect kind of pre-production items. That one sold for $125 plus $9 shipping. And one final thing, it seems like the Power of the Force 2 AT-AT Walker has really jumped up in price over the last year. I think it's because the vintage version, even loose and complete, is very expensive, and this is kind of like your next best option. This one was a sealed box, and it sold for $270 with free shipping, which I thought was a pretty great price for a sealed AT-AT driver, or AT-AT Walker. That's a great price. And then for an incomplete one, this was an incomplete one, or excuse me, this was it looked to be complete. It was complete, and it came with the baggies, with the figures, but it was opened. That's what I meant to say. It was opened. But even open, this one sold for 210 pounds or $285, and that's really just probably the currency conversion, that the US dollar versus this one that sold in the US for 270. So 270 versus 285. One of them was sealed, one of them was unsealed. It gives you a pretty rough price point there. But anyway, it's been a while since I've covered the Power of the Force 2 line. It is an awesome line. I've got, I don't know, they're up at my top shelves here. These two where I'm pointing with my finger, those are all graded Power of the Force 2 autographs and things like that. So I do love them, and I just don't have a lot of space to collect anymore. I don't have much space left. But I hope that you found this information helpful, and I was just trying to, meet a subscriber request, multiple subscriber requests for kind of a quick snapshot of what the Power of the Force 2 line market is doing. To my existing subscribers, thank you so much for watching. To my Patreon supporters, thanks so much for the channel support. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Please leave a like and any comment below with your thoughts on the Power of the Force 2 line. Do you like these roided up figures? Do you think they look ridiculous? I think it's a really cool part of Kenner/Hasbro's history that I hope people don't forget about, because there are some really cool figures in this line and cool card backs. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.